somewhere in the middle or in the midst of all this, you shifted your stance, your position on telling your kids about how your dad died.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about what your position was, how it changed? And I just kind of want to get into some of your fears in both buckets.
Yeah. So I had a belief that it's almost like, if someone in your family is a doctor, being a doctor seems achievable. If no one in your family has ever been a doctor, you're like, oh, I'd never be a doctor.
Seems like a pretty big lift.
Yeah. Like I remember in college, like people are like, well, my dad's a doctor, so just sort of go and become a doctor. And people were like, oh, God, a doctor. That was like, which in, it's called like ideation, right? Like my view was, if my children were aware that someone in their family had died by suicide, then like somehow suicide would be in the consideration set and they would be more likely, or it's just like, I'm aware of it now. And maybe if I never tell them their grandfather died by suicide, they'd literally never be aware of suicide. So that was my view. And it really came, the unwinding of that view really came out of this whole process of like my realizing that a lot of my frustrations and resentment of my children were because I hadn't accessed the fact that this had happened to me and had an impact on me. And I was sort of shielding it from them. And there was this kind of thing, there was this like other entity in our relationship that I wasn't talking about. And
the
so,
lava pit room. It's the lava.
Pit.
Exactly.
The lava doom pit.
Correct. Like rather than just yelling at them whenever they got
here.
Yeah, exactly. Rather than yelling whenever they got near that part of the house, I might say, hey, guys, part of the reason Dad's really like antsy about that part of the house is because this thing's in the house. That's part of my story is I live in a house with that thing. Now it's out in the open, and all you need to do is just actually not come within a foot of it. You can go in the room. It's fine. Nothing reaches out of it. Like that's almost the idea.
Right.
So that was super helpful. And I told my daughters first because they were a little bit older. And I didn't handle it probably very well. Like I made it like a let's come sit in the living room kind of thing. Like that room in there with the sofas Mom doesn't let us sit on. We're supposed to go in there. So I made it too uncomfortable. And then with my sons, I told them kind of more natural, which I wasn't, It was like, I was very uncomfortable. I was much more comfortable telling my daughters, even though I knew it was wrong. I was uncomfortable telling my sons, even though I now realize it was better.
Okay. So I have to ask, if you were afraid of the ideation of suicide kind of infecting your kids, right? To maybe follow suit, were you never afraid of the same thing happening to you?
Was I ever afraid? Like, am I afraid?
Because you knew about the suicide, you knew how your dad died. Did it ever cross your mind that maybe you too could die by suicide?
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah,
more
like every day.
Yes. No, not every day. I mean, so like I definitely have a perspective on my mental health, and like so like I don't drink alcohol anymore, and a big part of that was like. When I was 41, which is the age my dad was, I was like, okay, like my dad died when he was 41. I'm 41. Like, I don't want to die. Like, I don't want this to happen. What are the things in my life that can contribute to that? I'm like, okay, well, alcohol is like a major risk for all of this. I'm like, so maybe I'll try not drinking. So I did it for a year, and now it made a lot of sense. So I definitely take my mental health seriously. And by the way, like to me, part of like destigmatizing suicide is like, okay, this is not an abnormal thing, right? If you take the names off these things, like if you knew, and I don't know enough about this to know it, but like if you had a parent who died from cancer and you know that there are certain markers or risk factors, then you will take more care in your management of your life against those risk factors than someone would who didn't have that history. Like, so to me, mental health is no different. Like if you strip away the shame from it, it's like, okay, I had a parent who died this way. There's risk factors that are hereditary. I'm going to manage those risk factors. Like no big deal, right?
It's a disease in the same way.
Yeah, and that's in some ways it's like, okay, as I was preparing for this conversation, it's like, well, okay, I'm showing up as someone to talk about my experience with a parent dying by suicide, but like lots of like in some ways a big part of the destigmatization is like. The way that my father died is actually today, right? Now that I'm fully processed, like the way that he died, actually, my goal is to have as little impact on the way I manage the fact that he died as possible. Like he died a certain way. Heather's mom died from cancer. Like, there are differences, right? Like, but like the reality is today, they both passed away. Like, we're aware of that. Our kids have only 2 grandparents. And, you know, Heather has a mother who died from cancer, so she has to be aware of that and think about what that means for her health in the same way I do. Which sounds like glib, but it's kind of aspirational that, like, it doesn't make a difference. So that's what I aspire to.
Now that the kids know your history, what is their relationship with it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to say that it's like very healthy and we freely talk about it.
But by you being vulnerable, do you see lessons that they're absorbing about, now that you're so open about this painful history? Is that one of the lessons that you're hoping to pass on to them? Kind of like the power
I
of
would say,
vulnerability?
like, if I think of the reasons, like my reasons for doing a bunch of this, right? Part of what I'm trying to model, to my children and just more generally is like, if I can be vulnerable about this thing that's kind of painful and I can speak about it, if I can literally like, skirt right around the line of doom without being scared of it, then like, hopefully that's a reference point for someone else to try to think about, ways they can be vulnerable and deal with things that might be tricky to talk about.